I recently consulted with a client who ultimately decided to take her website down. She had already been sued and she didn't want to worry about being sued again. And I know many other small business owners are weighing their options, including whether or not to take their website down completely. So today I wrote a blog post titled ADA Lawsuits Should You Take Down Your Website? The blog post is on the screen with me, and we're just going to read through the parts of this blog post, starting with the top 5 reasons to delete your website. One is peace of mind. For some small business owners, it is simply not worth the constant fear of being sued. So that's a great reason to outright delete your website. Another is the hassle. So when I talk to some clients, they simply don't want to deal with website accessibility and everything that comes with it. They're overwhelmed by the entire scenario, the fact that they may have an accessibility project on their hands, and they just don't want to deal with the hassle of everything involved. Number three is it's too expensive. Many small business owners simply can't afford several thousands of dollars to remediate their website, audit and remediate their website for WCAG 2.1 AA conformance. So that's the third reason I have. Also, if your website is low traffic or low revenue, and it's not showing any immediate signs of generating income, then the ROI, the return on investment, may not be worth it to maintain your website. And then five, I have maintenance. So you can make your website WCAG 2.1 AA conformant, but that level of accessibility isn't going to remain if your team doesn't add content and edit code accessibly. So if you have the project staring at you, and then the fact that you don't want, you know that there will ultimately be accessibility issues that are introduced if your team is not up to date, or if you're just not confident in your ability to maintain accessibility. That's the fifth reason I have as for to take down your website. Now, to flip this, the top 5 reasons to keep your website up. One, revenue. Obviously, if you have a nice income producing asset, the ROI usually makes it worth keeping. Similarly, with SEO, if your website ranks well, even if you're not necessarily converting, you wouldn't want to throw away all of that potential. And it doesn't, you don't necessarily have to hire someone for SEO. Sometimes websites just rank really, really well on their own without much work on behalf of on the part of the website owner. Sometimes websites just naturally rank well. So if that's the case, that's a reason why you wouldn't want to just take everything down, because you would undo all of that SEO. Age, and this is along the same lines as SEO. Aged websites, which by the way, the older the website, generally the better, are more valuable because they're already established and they've earned trust in Google. If you've tried to rank a new website recently, you know that it's just difficult to break in to the top pages of Google, even for long tail keywords, and that's because you don't have that trust established yet. So age is also a part of this consideration. Similarly with design, if you've invested in a beautiful custom design, that's another reason why you may not want to delete your website. And then also, if you have a simpler website, if it's an information-based website, it's much easier to make this WCAG 2.1 AA conformant versus a website like an e-commerce website with more interactive elements, with more dynamic elements, etc. So if you have a simpler website, that's another reason why you wouldn't want to just decide to be over and done with it. So let's go over some alternatives. So rather than just going completely dark, one option is to simplify your website. And so that's what I was just getting at with that last reason why to keep your website. If you have a simpler website, it's easier to make it accessible and maintain that accessibility. Number two, you can turn your website into a simple information website with just your basic information and links to social media. So you can still have a web presence. It's just that you're not maintaining a full-fledged website. So that's another option. A third option is to forward your domain name to a social media account. So even if you don't have a website, you can really operate a business out of Facebook, Instagram, and or TikTok, just depending on what type of business you have. But that way, you have a layer of insulation because we don't see lawsuits where website owners are being sued because their Facebook page is inaccessible. That's not happening. I'm not. That's not to say it hasn't happened or it couldn't happen in the future. I haven't come across that yet, but this does greatly reduce your risk and it allows you to stay in business and continue operations again, depending on what your operations are. A fourth option is one that is basically the same, but where this time you're forwarding your domain name to your Amazon storefront. So you can, or you can potentially, if you have an e-commerce website, you can maintain your product pages, but then send customers over to Amazon to check out. There is more risk involved here because you have more of a website and potentially more exposure to risk. But it does mitigate some of that risk because ultimately you have customers that are checking out at Amazon. It does make it easier to make your website accessible because, again, less dynamic elements in play. The checkout goes to Amazon. So this is a hybrid approach. There is more risk, but there is also the fact that it's easier for you to make your website accessible. And then the fifth option here, the alternative to going online I have is take the ADA compliance course. So this course is created by me. And the idea behind this course is to give website owners step-by-step instructions that they can give to their digital team, their web designer, their web developer, whoever it is, to implement. Now, the course is not predicated on perfection, but rather proactive measures. So you are going in and you are fixing as many of the accessibility issues that plaintiffs' law firms are looking for. They're gravitating towards certain accessibility issues. And the reason I know this is because I look at the accessibility issues that they claim over and over again. So through this course, you can go through, learn how to find and fix these accessibility issues. And then as you are improving the accessibility on your website, you're reducing your risk of being sued incrementally. So ideally, you get through this course as soon as possible. And the course doesn't take that long to get through, probably I think it's about 2.5 hours to get through for most people, but you'll then reference the course as you are going through your website and looking through and just really it's got an itemization and a prioritization of the different accessibility issues. You go through those issues, you implement the lessons in the course, and then you start reducing accessibility issues and you're reducing the accessibility issues that are most likely to lead to a demand letter or to a complaint filed in court. So that's also an option. And then, so last, I end up with some parting advice. One, I understand the frustration. Two, I understand the confusion. This is something that I do. This is my full time work is accessibility and compliance, and then practically making sure that people aren't sued. So an option is to take down your website, and in some cases, I would recommend it. Sometimes it's just easier. It's just simpler. When you look at the return on investment, it's just the best option for certain website owners. And then what adds to the confusion is when you talk to different digital accessibility companies and agencies and vendors, some will outright lie to you and tell you that their solutions are actually going to help you make your website ADA compliant and stop lawsuits when they know very well that they do not. Being sued is very common. You're not alone if you're sued. This is something that is a negative for sure. There's no way around this. If you're sued, take time out of your schedule and spend a significant amount of money. That's a negative, but you can work around it. There may be some positives that come out of it. You can take the DIY route with the ADA compliance course. This is going to help you significantly reduce your risk. And then if you work with accessible.org and myself, we'll do our best to try to make your bad experience into a positive. One benefit here, and many clients really don't care about this when I talk to them, but there really is some benefit to be gained by making your website accessible, in part because it improves the overall user experience for everyone. So there is some benefit there. But we'll also look and see if there are any other ways that we can make this into a positive. So sometimes it's just some practical advice or some information that I'm aware of that you may not know of. We can use that to help inject positives into a negative situation. So if you're weighing the decision of whether or not to take down your website completely, if you'd like to consult with me, I will include contact information in the description. I will also include a link to the ADA compliance course as well as this blog post. So it is worth considering. In some situations, I would recommend it, but there are alternatives and there are different options. And if you are sued, the best course is to resolve the lawsuit, hire a defense attorney who is experienced in this space, who will genuinely defend you, and then put this matter behind you. Do not get sued again. Maintain accessibility, and then work on extracting as many positives as you can from this lawsuit. So I will include links to the resources I've discussed in the description.